Imagine you are holding the Bible in your hand right now. Most people think this is the whole story, but what if I told you that the book you are holding is only volume 2? And volume 1 was so explosive, so dangerous, so earth-shattering that heavenly powers and earthly powers worked together for thousands of years to seal it, bury it, hide it, and make the human race forget it ever existed. Volume 1 does not open with "In the beginning God created the heavens and the earth." It opens in eternity past, before the concept of beginning even existed, in the white-hot furnace of the triune glory where Father, Son, and Holy Spirit existed in an eternal, blazing dance of perfect love, perfect joy, perfect oneness that no created mind can fully grasp. Out of the overflow of that infinite delight, the Father reached into the fire of his own being and began to speak into existence rank after rank after rank of immortal, radiant, terrifyingly powerful beings. First came the towering thrones, living altars of fire who carry the chariot of God himself. Then the dominions, regal lords who govern the laws of the cosmos. Then the principalities, the crown princes of entire galactic clusters. Then the powers, the warrior hosts whose very footsteps shake Nebulae. Then came the seraphim six-winged, burning ones who circle the throne crying, "Holy, holy, holy," with voices that would vaporize planets if they ever spoke at full volume. Then the cherubim four-faced, many-eyed, wheel within wheel, creatures of pure living geometry and flame, guardians of the unapproachable light. And then, when every previous order had already pushed the limits of beauty and power, God reached deeper into himself and crafted the ultimate masterpiece. His name was Lucifer, Halo ben Shakar, son of the dawn. The light-bearer, the anointed cherub who covers. The morning star. Ezekiel 28 says every single precious stone in existence was woven into his body as his covering: sardius, topaz, diamond, beryl, onyx, jasper, sapphire, emerald, carbuncle, and pure glowing gold. The workmanship of his timbrels and pipes was prepared in him the day he was created. He didn't play music, he was music. His very heartbeat set the rhythm for the worship of trillions of angels across infinite space. When he walked, galaxies harmonized. When he lifted his voice, the foundations of reality sang back. He walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire on the holy mountain of God, the crystalline cosmic Mount Zion that exists outside of time and space. And from there he conducted the endless, perfect, unbroken worship of the entire created order. And then God did something that staggers every angel and demon who has ever thought about it since. He reached down and took one single planet out of the billions he had made, a planet of unimaginable beauty, and he handed the title deed to that planet to Lucifer as his personal kingdom, his personal throne world. This was not the earth you and I walk on today. This was the first earth, a planet so glorious that when it was finished, the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy. Job 38:7. Picture it with me: continents carved out of living light that shifted and danced like the aurora borealis, yet solid enough to walk on; oceans made of liquid jewel that sang in 1,000 harmonic layers as the wind moved across them; skies filled not with birds but with living flames of worship that streaked across the heavens, writing the thoughts of God in fire; cities built not of stone or metal, but of pure music crystallized into geometry; buildings that hummed, streets that played symphonies when you walked on them; walls made of transparent gold, so pure you could see the glory of God radiating through them from the other side; forests where every leaf was a sheet of gold, so thin it was translucent, and every tree bore 12 kinds of fruit at the same time, dripping with light instead of sap; rivers that flowed uphill and downhill at the same time, because physics obeyed worship, not gravity. And those rivers carried living words, actual thoughts of God, that you could drink and be filled with divine knowledge. Animals? They spoke, they sang, lions walked beside lambs not because of some future prophecy, but because death had never entered the vocabulary of creation. Yet this was Eden before Eden. This was the throne world of the morning star, the capital planet of the universe, the jewel in the crown of all creation. And for an age that no clock can measure, an age that lasted billions of our years or mere seconds in eternity, everything was perfect. Lucifer led the worship of the entire cosmos in flawless, ecstatic harmony. Every angel, every living creature, every atom bowed in perfect adoration before the throne of God, until one day, one moment, one heartbeat, the music changed key. Deep inside the most perfect creature ever made, a single thought appeared that had never existed before in all of eternity. The thought was, I, not I worship, not I serve, just I. And that thought grew into 5 words that still echo like thunder through every corridor of the spirit realm. I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. Will sit upon the mount of the congregation. In the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. In that instant, pride, the first sin, was born, and the universe has never recovered. 1/3 of all the angels, billions upon billions of mighty, radiant beings looked at the light-bearer, saw the fire in his eyes, and said, "We will follow you." War exploded immediately. This was not a war of guns and tanks. This was a war of pure spirit, pure will, pure sound. Words were spoken that tore galaxies in half. Songs were sung that unraveled the fabric of space-time. Clash of immortal wills lit the atmosphere on fire and turned gravity itself into a weapon. Revelation 12 says the dragon swept 1/3 of the stars of heaven with his tail and cast them to the earth. Those were not meteors. Those were angels, and the primary battlefield was the crown jewel planet itself. Earth, continents the size of Asia were ripped from their foundations and hurled into the void like toys. Mountains higher than anything we have today melted like wax before the presence of warring immortals. Cities made of living diamond and song were shattered into cosmic dust. The perfect harmonic vibration that had held the entire planet together turned into a scream of discord that could be heard across dimensions. And then God spoke one word. Judgment. The crust of the entire planet collapsed in a single moment. A global lightless, airless, worldwide cataclysmic flood. A flood of darkness and chaos roared across the face of the earth at speeds beyond comprehension. Every building, every living creature, every trace of Lucifer's golden civilization was buried beneath trillions of tons of sediment, mud, and water in a single day. The sun, moon, and stars that had illuminated that perfect world were blotted out. The sky turned black. The atmosphere itself was stripped away. The throne world of the Teo morning star became a drowned graveyard orbiting silently in space, and there it floated dead, dark, crushed, and silent for an unknown period of time. This is Genesis 1-2. The Hebrew does not say the earth was without form and void. It says the earth became Haya, without form and void. Tahu v'yabau, a perfect creation, became chaos because it was judged. The deep, the spirit of God hovered over, is the Hebrew word Tem, the same word used for the flood of Noah, the abyss, the watery grave of judgment, and the darkness on the face of the deep was not just absence of light. It was the funeral shroud draped over a world that had committed cosmic treason against its creator. Thousands of years later, the prophet Jeremiah was given a vision that made him physically tremble. I looked at the earth, and behold, it was without form and void. I looked at the heavens, and they had no light. I looked at the mountains, and they trembled. I looked, and there was no man. And all the birds of the heavens had fled. I looked, and the fruitful land was a wilderness, and all its cities were pulled down before the Lord, before his fierce anger. Cities before Adam, before Noah, cities destroyed by the fierce anger of God. Ancient Jewish rabbis knew something was hidden. Midrash and the Kabbalah speak openly of the worlds that God created and destroyed before this one. They said the bones and crowns of the kings of those worlds are locked inside the rocks and mountains we walk on every day. They said when Cain was cursed to be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth, he was literally wandering among the ruins of a civilization that had been annihilated. Long before he was born, ruins he could feel but not understand. The early church fathers knew. Justin Martyr, 2nd century. Irenaeus, disciple of Polycarp, who was disciple of John. Tertullian. Origen all wrote clearly about a pre-Adamic creation that perished in divine judgment because of the sin of angels. The book of Enoch, quoted directly in Jude and referenced by Peter, speaks of angels who sinned. But many ancient writers saw two separate rebellions, the first led by Lucifer that destroyed the original earth, and the second, lesser rebellion in the days of Jared that produced the Nephilim. Even modern geology, when it stops forcing everything into billions of years, screams the truth at the top of its lungs. 95% of the entire fossil record is marine creatures buried suddenly, violently, globally. Palestrate trees standing upright through dozens of millions of years of sedimentary layers. Frozen mammoths in Siberia with tropical buttercups still in their mouths and undigested in their stomachs. Marine fossils, whales, sharks, clams on the tops of the Himalayas, the Andes, the Rockies, every major mountain range on Earth. One event, one global burial, one judgment. But this is where the story stops being terrifying and becomes the single most beautiful, heartbreaking, glorious thing you will ever hear in your entire life. God did not look at his ruined, drowned, defiled jewel and say, "Scrap it. Start over on a new planet." He looked at the wreckage of the rebel cherub's throne world and said, "Mine, I'm taking it back." The 6 days of Genesis are not creation from nothing, they are re-creation. Restoration. Reclamation. A divine hostile takeover. Day 1. Let there be light. He was not creating light for the first time. He was restoring light to a planet that had once known perfect light and lost it in judgment. Day 2. He separated the waters above from the waters below, pushing back the death shroud that had drowned the first earth. Day 3. He commanded the dry land to appear, lifting new continents out of the graveyard of the old, reshaping the crust that had collapsed in wrath. Day 4. He restored the sun, moon, and stars, not creating them for the first time, but reigniting the very lights that had once served Lucifer's kingdom and been extinguished when glory departed. Day 5. He filled the oceans and skies with new life that would never know the glory of the first earth, but would sing anyway. And then, on day 6, God did the single most astonishing, insulting, breathtaking, eternity-altering act imaginable. He stooped down into the dust, the very dust that still carried the ashes of Lucifer's crown, the powdered diamonds of his shattered cities, the footprints of fallen angels, and he picked up a handful of that cursed blood-soaked, war-torn mud. And out of that mud, he formed a new creature. Weak, fragile, mortal, limited, temporary, made in the image of God. Then he bent down, put his mouth against the mudman's mouth, and breathed. And when he breathed, he gave that creature something no angel had ever been offered. the freedom to choose love, and God looked at the watching. Heaven's angels and demons packed shoulder to shoulder in silence, and he said loud enough for every realm to hear, "This weak thing of dust will bear my image where the highest angel failed. This fragile creature will rule where the covering cherub fell. This mortal man will prove for all eternity that love freely chosen in weakness is infinitely greater than perfect obedience that can still turn to pride. Humanity is not an afterthought. Humanity is the ultimate middle finger to hell. Humanity is God's final declaration of war. Every single baby ever born is a battle cry echoing across the spirit realm saying, 'Your rebellion failed, Satan.' Every human soul is a living, breathing monument erected on the ruins of Satan's empire that screams into the face of every demon, 'You lost.' That is why Genesis 1:28 does not say fill the earth. It says replenish the earth. Male in Hebrew, refill what was once full and then emptied by catastrophe. Adam was not the first king of this planet. He was the second. He was the invasion force. He was sent to colonize a reclaimed battlefield and overwrite the corrupted culture of the first earth with the culture of the kingdom of God. But Adam bowed his knee to the former tyrant in a garden. He surrendered the title deed he had been given, and from that moment forward, human history became the long, bloody, glorious war of reclamation. Through Enoch, who walked with God, through Noah, who survived the second judgment that echoed the first, through Abraham, who was called out of Babylon, through Israel, who was forged in the wilderness, through the prophets who bled truth, until finally, in the fullness of time, the seed of the woman stepped onto the battlefield wearing human flesh. Jesus did not come merely to die for your personal sins. He came to finish the war that began before Genesis 1-2. Walked the same cursed ground. He touched the same dust that still carried the ashes of the first rebellion. He was tempted in the wilderness with the exact same offer Lucifer accepted. All these kingdoms will I give you if you will bow down. And Jesus crushed it with the humility Lucifer rejected and Adam failed to hold. He was nailed to that cross, driven into the ruins of the first earth, dripping blood onto the graves of a drowned civilization. He was not just paying for human sin. He was planting the flag of final victory. He was shouting into the principalities and powers, "This world is mine again." The resurrection was the legal reclamation of the planet itself. The ascension was the second Adam taking his seat at the right hand of the Father, holding the title deed to earth in nail-scarred hands, Revelation 5. And then he did something even more staggering. He handed the keys to you and me. That is why you feel the war every single day of your life, because you are not living on neutral territory. You are living on a planet that has changed ownership 3 times. 1. Given to Lucifer in pristine glory. 2. Reclaimed and handed to Adam. 3. Stolen by deception and purchased back forever by the blood of the blood Lamb. Every square inch is contested because it is already conquered. Every demon knows the war is lost, yet they fight anyway because the ultimate prize was never the dirt. The prize is the image of God walking on the dirt. You are the prize. That is why abortion is a sacrament in the kingdom of darkness. That is why the erasure of male and female is a major demonic campaign. That is why every generation sees a new assault on what it means to be human, because every single person, born or unborn, black or white, male or female, young or old, who bears the image of God is a living, breathing, walking monument to the total, eternal, irreversible failure of the morning star. Your worship is warfare. Your prayer is artillery that shakes the gates of hell. Your obedience is occupation of enemy territory. Every time you choose Jesus, you drive another stake into the heart of the first rebellion, the stones under your feet still remember the day they were weapons. The ocean still whisper of the day they drowned a world. The mountains still bear the scars of the war that almost unmade creation. You child of dust, redeemed by blood, indwelt by the Spirit of the living God, are the final answer to a rebellion that began before the first Adam was formed. So if everything inside you is roaring right now, if your spirit is standing at attention, if something ancient and warrior-like just woke up inside your chest and said, "I was born for this," then welcome to the real story. Now the only question left is, what are you going to do with a truth this dangerous, this glorious, this ancient, this forbidden? Because if this just rewrote your entire understanding of reality, then right now, before the fire cools, smash the like button like the soldier you are, hit subscribe, and turn on ALL notifications, because we are only scratching the surface of what was. Sealed. Drop your exact city and country in the comments. I want to watch this revelation spread across the planet in real time like fire on dry grass. Share this with every believer who is tired of milk and ready for meat, tired of shallow answers and ready for the war. And if you want to lock arms and keep these buried truths alive while the gates of hell try to silence them again, hit join, super thanks, or become a member. Every single dollar, every single prayer is ammunition in this ancient fight. You were not born into a time of peace. You were born into the final minutes of a war that started before the foundations of the world were laid. You were born to stand on reclaimed ground, to hold the line with worship as your weapon, humility as your shield, and the blood of the Lamb as your victory. Until the sky splits, until the trumpet blasts, until the King returns on a white horse with eyes of fire, and the armies of heaven behind him to burn every last shadow of the first rebellion out of existence forever. Until that day, stay dangerous. Stay awake, stay on the wall, stay in the fight. The morning star has fallen, the Son of God has risen, the earth is reclaimed, and you, blood-bought child of the King, are the living proof that pride lows and love wins forever and ever and ever. I'll see you on the front lines. Family. The real story has online just bun.